Hello, welcome to episode 7 or episode 1 of season 2 of the Tasting Hour. I'm Jason.
I'm Gary.
Welcome, Happy New Year.
Yep.
I would say Merry Christmas, but we've had that and we're all now depressed. Well, we're not that depressed because we've got cigars to smoke.
Yeah, we're not too bad. It might be January and everybody's trying to be sober and all the rest, but that doesn't stop us from talking about products.
Indeed.
So we're going to get ourselves lit up with the weakest from a selection of Dominican Lanceros.
Now, this is a cigar I quite like, and I find a lot of cigar smokers don't. I think everybody's so into their Robustos or Churchill-sized cigars, they kind of avoid this cigar, which is ironic because it's Castro's favorite size. So it's like all those Cuban smokers out there who go, oh yeah, you know, I like my Cohibas. It's like, yeah, but do you like the Zanzero? And they go, oh no, I prefer the Robusto. It's like, well, technically you should be going for this format if you really like your Cubans. But that's just, you know, me.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. And I would be in that group of normally smoking Toros or Robustos. I mean, I have smoked a Lancero before because I had a limited edition from a Cuban source. And I still got one left, having sold the others. And the other time I've only really tried one was when we tried those the Galeria ones back in the spring.
Yeah, back in May.
Back in May. So I thought it would be nice to start the new year with a cigar that isn't actually often smoked that much. And these are the lightest of the ones we got here. We'll probably may get to try another one, or we'll try...
It is generally a longer smoke as well. I think that might be the main reason in the UK. With the weather, especially, well, January, not the best time to try this. But we are in a nice sheltered area, so this should be all right. But you have to be patient, which is actually very fortunate about this episode. Today's interview in this episode is going to be with a friend of mine, Dan Marston, who produced a book called Today is Enough. You may have seen a few highlights. We did talk about it at the back end of the last show. And if you haven't seen that, go and watch it. It's not a bad show, actually. I quite enjoyed it. And it is about men's mental health, which is something men, and I'm terrible for this, and I will admit it, we don't talk about. We just don't. I just sit there and enjoy a cigar. That's how I deal with it.
Well, in some respects, it's better than maybe taking some of the medications that are floating around. It's too easy for people just to take another tablet because that's prescribing, where I think the book in its own way does go through that idea that actually if we get up and spend a little time thinking about stuff, we can sort most stuff out, but try not to overthink it because that's always the risk.
I think that is it. You do have a tendency to let your brain run away with you and overthink it to the point where, oh my God, everything's going to go wrong. And 90% of it will never go wrong. No. It will never go wrong in that direction. You're being very brave by lighting it with a match.
We are at a shelter spot officially, according to you.
And it has, in fairness.
Actually, it's doing well. This would actually get... I can lend you my smoke. No, it's the other way around because I've forgotten a lighter today. But we are sheltered. Actually, that's got a little bit of strength to it.
It's got quite an earthy note to that to start with. No pepper, no spice. Just a flat sort of...
No, it's supposed to be a medium to light flavour. We've smoked lighter cigars.
Oh, yes.
And that later on in the program, I think that's something we've decided we're going to think. In the first 6 programs, or in the time prior to planning even doing the things, we smoked a lot of cigars this year.
Yeah, I think we're gonna basically give you our top 3 cigars of 25, what we think from what we smoked. So they're not necessarily the new releases of last year, although some of them are. We're also going to do some of the ones we thought were not so good. Now that's going to get quite a bit of that's going to be quite controversial, I think, personally.
I think so, but some things are a personal thing. There's a lot of cigars out in the market these days, and some of the older views of people or ideas or myths that float around tend to stick that you have to be doing something else. And I think there's a lot of difference between... People are getting confused by what is a flavour and what is a strength.
Yes. The strength is the nicotine.
And most cigars will have a decent strength for them because nicotine will do that.
Let's move on to the drink. What's the first drink we're going to sample with this?
I've got a couple of rums for today. This is the first one. It's one that's, well, Black Tot Day is the 31st of July of each year. Right. And it celebrates the last day of the Royal Navy rum ration in 1970, July 31st. And they made a special batch of rum that day.
Yes.
And as usual, they didn't finish it all for some reason. And they squirreled the barrels away into some dusty old warehouse, which when eventually half the naval shipyards got thing, somebody found us, what the hell are all these barrels, and then made a wonderful discovery. And they sold it off originally. It became, I think, into the property of Lexia Distillers. And they started selling it off as it was. At that point, practically probably a 45-year-old casked rum.
That's almost unheard of.
Or maybe it might have been bottled or some kind of container anyway, whatever. They talked about barrels when I was talking to the reps. And like all things institutional, the Navy kept the recipes of what went into it and where the distilleries were. And they soon found out that those distilleries, Foursquare in Barbados, the Guyana one I'm not quite sure of, Bagana, and certainly the one in Jamaica, they all still existed. And so they were approached to remake batches according to the recipes that might have been used this time, as far as I can understand, to make a new version of Black Tot.
And this is it.
Because the original version had really got rather good. And there's still a little bit of the original goes into each one, but as time goes on, it's getting less and less. Yeah. But I think as a mixture of the three different ones on a blend and its story, it's actually probably able to stand on its own 2 feet.
Okay. Well, it's a rum, and you can definitely get the sugar. It's definitely very sweet. I will be honest and say I have issues with spiced rums.
That's not necessarily spice. That's just plain 3 different rums.
Okay.
From the thing. The next one we're trying is a spiced rum.
I do remember. Yeah, that's it. I'm getting a bit ahead there because I remember you saying we are trying spiced rums, right? That's weird. It's got a very that really sucks the moisture out of your palate.
Sugar and alcohol.
But rums don't normally do that. For me, they don't. That's almost quite tart.
This is a little bit stronger than I expected as a cigar.
The retrohale is quite smooth. It's not overpowering, it's not. So it's got some age to it. It's not a young leaf by any means.
No, and it is smooth, but I was expecting a much weaker cigar. This has actually got quite an interest. This is not a weak cigar.
That's interesting, considering we're about a centimetre in. This is probably an hour and a half smoke, if you're going to do it properly and not rush it. Because of the construction and the size of it, what was it, we said a 38 ring gauge?
38 ring gauge. So standard for the Lancer.
Yeah, so you can't rush this cigar. If you rush it, it will overheat, burn, and become incredibly bitter, which is another reason I think a lot of cigar smokers don't smoke them. Because they like their Robustos where they can just literally sit there and puff away. And if it overheats slightly, it'll cool down quite quick. If this overheats, it will just keep overheating, I think.
Yeah, and they've got to be perfectly constructed because that's anybody who's played with pastinating knows what it's like to try and roll something this gauge over anything. So the best rollers have got to be rolling those.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about this as well, this goes back, funny enough, to our 101 that will be in the third part of our 101 on wrappers is in this show. This format, the wrapper is the dominant feature of the flavour. Whereas in the other size formats, it's much more balanced out. It's 60% wrapper and 40% the rest of it. This is probably 85% wrapper. So that is an interesting point as well from a taste profile.
We will talk about quite a lot of the cigars. I will really say one thing about it at the same time is that the number of short pattern cigars that have come out last year. Is, from my point of view as a shopkeeper, it's stupendous because we have weather like we do outside at the moment where it's
Pissing it down.
It's pissing it down. It's quite thing. You really don't want to have a long smoke. And whether it's the Gallerias or the PDRs, should I say, these are really nice short smokes. There's at least 5 or 6 I now have in the shop, which actually gives me quite a range.
Yeah, I think this version of the PDR is better than the Robusto version.
I think it although it's the same thing, it's almost a different cigar in its own right. I think it would be true to say.
I think they've got the recipe, the balance of the leaf, the ratios of the leaf are right in that format, and I don't think they've quite hit it in the Robusto. But it is interesting how that difference in size affects the actual balance of flavour.
For something that has the same recipe in it, and that is an important point. People think, oh, they're all different. Yes, but they're different for not by recipe. A Monte Cristo is a Monte Cristo.
Yeah.
But for example, the 4 smokes totally different to a Petit Mundo even.
Yeah.
Because of the change in the ring gauge.
Are always sweet. I've always found that as a sweet Monte Cristo, whereas the Amondo or number 2 isn't a sweet cigar, it's a peppery cigar.
Yeah, because they've got more to play with the strength of the cigar and the balance they're creating.
Exactly. But it is, as you say, it's the same, it's a Monte Cristo recipe. It's like when whiskies, for example, like I like my Brook Laddie, if you have the classic and then you go and have the Port Charlotte or the Optimal, you can taste that element of the classic in those other 2 because it's that base recipe.
On the other side of it, I did have somebody ask me when I was talking about the thin cigars, like Lancero, I said, well, how would they do with that? How would they balance out the cigars? And I think the quite simple answer is very carefully.
Yeah.
Because that is an art form to get the cigar to change gradually over time and not actually stomp it out in the first 2 or 3 puffs.
Yeah. So whilst we're going to enjoy these cigars, because as you can see, these are very long. We've done about an inch, if that, and that's taken, well, it's taken a little while. Yeah. This is the book that we're focusing on today, on today's interview with Dan. Today is Enough. How to tell your brain to fuck off and let you live your life, or actually live your life if I read it properly. Yeah, go and watch it. And we're going to discuss it when we come back afterwards. So we're going to enjoy these and we'll see you in a few minutes.
See you soon.
Right, here's the first interview of the Tasting Hour 2026. Dan, I've known Dan personally for years. Dan is an auctioneer. Don't hold that against him. Seriously, don't. He's a very good friend of mine. The reason I've got Dan involved in this interview for the first one of 2026 is because being January, we're all slightly depressed because we've just had Christmas. Dan has written a book. Now, I like this book. I have to be honest, the title alone it was like, I was always going to love this book. So I figured I had to get Dan on basically for you guys to discover the book and hopefully take a moment, because I think that's what we're missing. So Dan, welcome to the Tasting Hour podcast.
Thank you very much. What a great honour.
Well, you say that now. I'll ask you that at the end.
Great honour, yeah.
We're here to basically do 2 things, cigars. So I've brought you a cigar that you're going to try and your book. So let me hand you the cigar.
Lovely. It's been a while since we've done this, right?
Yeah, the last time you and I were together for cigars was 2019.
That's ridiculous.
It's been way too long. The cigars for today, I figured this is quite an appropriate cigar. It's the Leaf Toro, it's the Leaf Maduro, but it's the Toro size. The reason I picked this is about, it's theatre. There's a lot of unwrapping on this cigar. And actually the whole process of unwrapping and understanding, I think, ties in very well with your book.
Perfect.
So there's your cigar.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
That's the subject, your book. Would you like to tell the people the title of your book? I've deliberately not said this because I didn't want to spoil the surprise.
So the book is it's in 2 parts, really. The book is called Today is Enough, How to Tell Your Brain to Fuck Off and Actually Live Your Life. There's a lot behind that. And I think anybody basically in a one-liner with a very busy brain that is constantly busy, you're constantly second guessing, you're overthinking, you're anxious, you're worried. I think in this day and age, I think most people will find something here that they can relate to.
It is basically that whole kind of fuck off. Just stop. Take a moment.
Yeah.
Because that's what none of us are doing.
No, we don't. And I think, I wrote this book initially for myself. Basically, anybody that can relate to a day that starts with you waking up with 15 feral squirrels running around your brain and that not stopping until you go to sleep. And each of those feral squirrels is one of paralysis because you're worried about something, or you've just, I think we call it brain chatter.
Yeah.
And chatter is, if you can harness it, is sometimes useful. Your brain obviously is very useful, and I'm not daft, and I managed to work things out and create things. And, so for the most part, our brain is very useful. Without it, we'd be in a bit of trouble. The problem I have with my own brain, and the reason I wrote this book, is because my brain is a bit of a prick as well. So my brain will get in the way of me doing things. My brain will make me second guess everything. My brain will make me worry about what I did last week, last month, what's happening next week, tomorrow, next month, whatever, next year. And actually, the Buddhists are amazing at it and still studying it now. What we're all very bad at is living in the present.
And I bang on about this a lot, and it's why I do cigars so much. That is my anchor point.
Yeah.
That's how I stop. That's when my brain settles down, and that's when I can take stock and just calm down. The whole process, especially with this cigar, because the whole point of this is you literally unwrap it.
Quite tricky, isn't it? You've taken the
So the outside
central
lid,
band off.
Yeah, the central band can come off, and then you just unwrap it, and you'll find a lovely cigar in the middle.
You're right. When you said about theatre, this is something I've never done.
But it's very therapeutic.
It's a pre-Christmas gift.
But this is one of the reasons I wanted you on the show. It's you've actually put into words what a lot of us are not doing. And you've actually identified, I think, one of the bigger problems in society as a whole. And yes, I'm getting on the soapbox. We don't stop. We always see what someone else has got, or we worry about what someone else has got and what we haven't done, what we need to do.
Yeah.
You're right. Sometimes you just literally need to turn around and tell your brain to go fuck itself.
And I don't know what the stat is. I did look at this when I was writing the book, but there is unconfirmed data that people have about 60,000 thoughts a day, right? And that's not confirmed, but it's a ballpark guess. There's also a ballpark guess that 30 to 50% of your day is spent with brain chatter. Talking to yourself is very normal. It can be very useful, but this book is written about the brain chatter when it is not useful, when it is hindering you from doing the most simple things because it won't shut the fuck up. And that's the point. You've got to be able to, and this is about disciplining yourself very simply to do certain things to move beyond a position where your brain is ruling your day.
Yeah.
And you second guessing everything.
Exactly. On that note, that's why we're doing cigars, because this is how I tell my brain to go fuck itself.
This is your battlefield, isn't it?
Indeed. So this is how you cut your cigar down, because you've not done a V-cut before. And previously, I've always cut your cigars.
You've always done it for me. This is not my thing.
So you got your cutter, put it on the top. On there, it will sit in the slot.
Yeah. What's that?
Yeah, and then it's just one continuous squeeze.
Okay.
And there you go. That is your first V-cut.
Beautiful. Look at that.
Yeah. I like the Calibri cutters, which is what these are, because they got a very deep V. And it just, for me, it makes the draw a lot better, and the way it feels on my tongue is particularly
I said this before we switched on, mate, you've got some really cool kit here. I mean, look, these cutters, they've got great weight.
Yes.
Your lighters are just uber cool.
Lighten the cigar. So grab your lighter, and you're going to hold it just off the end. And so it just touches the bottom of the cigar, and you're just toasting it. This actually takes longer than you realise. Yes, because I've always lit your cigars for you as well.
You've always done this. Every time we've had cigars, you've done it because you're the expert. And
so what we're doing is we're toasting the foot of the cigar. So it's basically going to become like a nice dark black charcoal, and then it will start going a bit white. So as it gets lit, what that's going to do is create an even sort of burn from when we're ready to go. So then, let's have a look, see how you are. That's almost there. So what I would now do is put the cigar in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. And that is it. So this is a Maduro cigar. So this is a bit sweeter than what you're used to and a bit more flavour, because you normally smoke Cubans with me. This is the first time you smoked the New World.
That's very nice.
So drinks for this. Dan is going for a Guinness Zero.
Yeah.
And that's an entire can in that glass.
That is a can. That's impressive.
That's
That's impressive.
I'm going for my whiskey for this is going to be the Glenanachie 12. This is the one that won Whiskey of the Year last year. They reckon this, the 12-year-old, which is a 50 quid bottle of whiskey, is as good as the 25-year-old Macallan, which is over £2,500 a bottle.
It's quite something.
I would definitely take a 50 quid bottle of whiskey over that every time. I'm going to have to get another bottle of this because I'm almost out. As you can see, I've liked that a lot. So it'll be interesting to see what you think the pairings will go with, because it will definitely change how your palate feels when you have the drink.
Well, this is a bit rogue, isn't it? This is a Guinness Zero, so this flies in the face of the... but this stuff, I tell you what, this is probably one of the best things ever invented. Obviously, as how long ago is it now? 3.5 years since I last had a drink. And not for the reasons you think, but it's just a choice I made and never went back. And obviously got very stubborn, probably after the first month, decided I wasn't going back.
Yeah, that's the stubborn streak you've got. Yeah.
I bet you've never paired a cigar with a Guinness Zero before, Jason.
Actually, if I'm honest, believe it or not, I've never paired a cigar with Guinness.
Have a sip of that.
I will do in a moment. The problem I have with Guinness, and some people will understand this problem. I used to drink Guinness quite a lot when I was younger, and then I went to Ireland. That's my problem with Guinness, because I came back and it's just shit. I'm sorry. The way that it's done over in Ireland,
yeah, it is.
It is better. Hence, it's like Jack Daniels. I just haven't touched it. I haven't touched Jack Daniels since I was in my 1920s.
I think if you go to Southern Ireland and you go to a small village pub that pours its Guinness, it's something else. And there's two things I loved in life when I was drinking. I love red wine, absolutely love it. I did like a whiskey every now and then, but for me, my joy was red wine, and I did like my beer. But Guinness, I've drunk Guinness for years. Since not drinking, it was at 20th of March 2022 now. I still miss the red wine. I still, not beer so much, but Guinness, because Guinness Zero, look, it's never going to be the same. And there's always been this thing about Irish Guinness and Guinness. Yeah. But the truth of it is, it all comes out of St James Gate. A lot of this stuff comes out. It's the way it's poured.
I was going to say,
beer is about how it's kept.
Yeah. Guinness is about the way it's poured.
And beer, if you were just to take an ale, you can go to pubs and have virtually the same pint that will taste completely different, because a pub's not cleaning its pipes, it's not doing that, it's not maintaining stuff. It's just
actually I remember that's more like I remember it.
Yeah, it's made. It's look. Okay. I'm not going to sit and pretend I'm having a normal Guinness. It's not for me. It's not like that. It's because I enjoy the taste and I enjoy Guinness. I'm still having my Guinness. Yeah. And for me, it's, I can sit and watch the rugby, I can have, and weirdly, really weirdly, and no, it's not because it tastes rank, I will probably only have a couple of these on a weekend. I literally won't have much, only because I just don't want it. Whereas I know back in the day, quite easily would have just sat and just done a pack of these.
Yeah.
Watching the rugby. And so that's kind of weird. And I think it's just, for me, that was just a change of mindset at the time. But I certainly was reading about this yesterday, about pubs. And this has been for a long time, the number of pubs closing every week. I can't remember what camera said. It was at one point 9 pubs a week closing. It's probably more now, because I think...
Well, with the last budget, it's most certainly going to be quite a few more.
It's going to be worse, yeah. Yeah. And I read a Facebook post from a landlord who is paying himself £6 an hour, and he's paying his business rates, and he's got this tax break on this, but actually they've recouped it on this, and it's just a disaster for pubs, I think. And so I think the awful thing is, what's eventually going to happen at some point, we're going to lose so many of our pubs. People are going to buy all this stuff in supermarkets, and I think part of that enjoyment of enjoying a drink in a pub, let's be honest, is lovely, it is going to disappear.
Yeah, you're going to lose that camaraderie. And that, basically, that almost a tribalism, really, because it is where people came together. They talked, they discussed problems, they discussed opportunities coming up, what's happening at work, what they're going to do at work, what's going on with your family, your son or your son's girlfriend, all of that sort of stuff. That's the sort of stuff that's going to disappear.
And when you talk about well-being and mental health, actually, that's crucial. And I lived in a village for years. I live in a seaside town now. I don't go to the pub, but I did when I lived in a village and the pub was over the road from my house. I actually timed it once. It was 13 seconds from my front door to the pub, which was amazing. So I'd finished work and you go into the pub any night of the week, you could go into the pub and there was somebody there from the village. There'd be a handful of people in there. You would always be able to talk about stuff. And in an age when we are all so busy and our minds are so like,
they don't switch off. Yeah.
Crucial. And there are lots of people out there who don't get that, who don't have a social network, who don't have and that's half the problem, that people don't talk about this stuff in a free environment where they feel that they can just talk about anything.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, when you've had a few pints,
you're likely to say things you wouldn't say when you're sober.
absolutely would say things, maybe even about the way you are, or oh God, I'm really finding this difficult, whatever. You wouldn't say it in those words, but you are able to do that in an environment that's a bit freer than maybe I'm just going to start talking about how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, people aren't comfortable doing that for the most part, unless they're with somebody they really trust. So this book for me was part of a creative process that I really enjoyed. It enabled me to sit and be creative about something. And you and I have talked about other things that I enjoy doing. So that creative stuff, writing or producing something that I think, actually, I really enjoy doing that. With your TikTok channel, and if, like you say, there can't be many people out there who are independently talking about whiskey and cigars in a free way to people who don't know much about it, who want some everyone loves a recommendation. You go on Amazon and there's, everyone looks at a review and they say, I was going to buy this thing, and I look at the reviews and people are going crazy for this. There must be something in it. When I want to know about something and I go on YouTube and somebody talks with authority on something, and I think, do you know what? I feel really comfortable about that thing. If I was looking to get into cigars and I was watching your TikTok and I was thinking, because I saw one where you were talking about if you just started smoking sort of a good entry-level cigars, that sort of stuff. I think that's the term I'm using, entry-level cigars, something, and the recommendations. I think it's amazing. And I think actually content generally, where there's value to it, rather than just doom scrolling crap, which, let's be honest, there's a lot of that.
Yes, there is.
Where you got where somebody's genuinely excited about something, knowledgeable, and quite passionate about the provenance of a product and the companies making these things. And I know you've had some good local businesses and whiskey producers and people have sent you cigars and stuff. I think that's amazing that you created that from nothing. And then you have, and now you've got this thing that, I think, and I know we're doing this podcast, but I think we should be really proud of that. I do, honestly. And you're not very good at compliments, because you're going to find a reason to wriggle out of being complimented. But you should be really proud of this, because I think what you're doing here with,
yeah, I am going to wriggle out of it. I don't do compliments. I just don't. I'm an asshole.
That's not true.
It's difficult. I think it goes back to a generational thing. Our generation don't do compliments. We give each other shit. Yeah. That's what Gen X did. That's what we do, and that's why we quite like it. So when someone gives you a compliment, it's like, yeah, where's the boot? Come on, I'm waiting for the other side.
And there's no but.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I'm not going to say, Jason, all this stuff, but.
Yeah.
However,
you're still a dick.
Here's the however. There's no however. I have, I'm genuinely, I've lots of kind things said from people who have bought this book, who've read it. And from people who know me, there are no surprises here, that I knew it. And one of the funniest things that's ever been said about me, and it's one of the things, and I should have put it in the book, actually, because I've got a mate of mine who I've known since I was 12, Anton, who said to me once, I was helping him out during COVID, we were in his van, was a lift engineer, and we were out on a job in Bristol, and we were driving down, and we were talking about something. I can't remember what we were talking about, and he stopped and he went, "Fuck me." He said, I would love to just get into your head for like a few minutes. I'd have to get out in about 17 seconds flat, but I don't know what the fuck goes through your head." And so you think about it, you think, what does go through my head? And you think about these thoughts and you think, actually, you do get a lot of random shit goes through your head during the day. And you know what? Some of it is good stuff, right?
Yeah.
Your brain is not entirely a prick.
No, but it's keeping hold of the good stuff.
You take the good stuff and you go, hang on a minute, okay. And the bit I loved, but sometimes when you sit and you do have that sort of moment where you sit and some people will say, look, when I've had a few beers or I've had a few glasses of whiskey, I get really creative. I mean, that's an illusion. Yeah. It's an illusion. It can happen sometimes. It probably would have happened anyway. And people put notepads by their bed because they suddenly have a eureka moment and they write stuff down. I know for a fact that being a bit pissed in my own house when I was single and thinking I had all these great ideas, when you look at them the next day, you think, yeah, it wasn't a great idea.
No, what was I thinking?
What was I thinking? Yeah. But sometimes, there is that moment where you think, that's a really fucking good idea. I should do that. I should definitely do that. That's when the brain is like amazing. And obviously it is amazing. But it's a bit like having, for me, you can tell your best mate to fuck off, right?
Yeah.
If they say something, you say, mate, fuck off. Seriously. Yeah. You've got to do that with your brain. And your brain obviously is in your corner, allegedly.
Allegedly,
and it thinks it's doing the right thing when it's scaring you witless about something you really don't need to be scared about. You think you're going to get a bang on the door from some men who are going to take all your stuff, or you're going to fail at that presentation next week, or like me, I did my first auction a few weeks ago. I thought it was going to be a disaster. I was terrified. I'm not going to lie. It was a very scary moment. But it all went really well, and I was coming out the other side and saying, "What was I doing?" I got myself into a real
overthought
state.
it,
and I overthink everything, and that's who I am. And I think when you get older, you start to understand who you are. You can harness that a bit more, and you say, "Look, this is just my brain being a dick, or this is just me being daft." I think is how we normally phrase it. I'm just being a bit daft.
Yeah,
need to man up. All that stuff.
You see, there's something we used to say that all the time, and that wasn't an issue. The problem with society now is that's an issue.
Well, my brother was in the army for 24 years, and he said something to me donkeys years ago that made me laugh so much. He said to one of my kids when they were young, I can't remember what they said, but they weren't happy about something. Might have had a bit of a cold or something. And Martin said, "Mate, you need to go to Boots and get yourself some mups." And Ollie went, "What?" He went, "You want to go to Boots and get yourself some mups?" And Ollie just looked at him. He went, "What?" He went, "Man up pills."
Yeah.
Go to Boots and get yourself some man up pills. That's advice from even 2007. We're 2026 and we don't say that sort of stuff anymore because it's not considered to be kind. It's not considered to be the right thing to say. But do you know what? I say these things, and I'm sure people of our age, and maybe younger, whatever, but I think these things genuinely, when you say them to friends or people you really care about, they're said with the love. Don't say them with any degree of malice. I would never say these things to somebody with any sort of malice.
No, I think it's also a very British thing.
Yeah, it is.
We've got one of those sense of humours that a lot of people do not understand. So when we say something, like an American will go, "You can't say that. How dare you say that?" Say what?
It's the sense of irony.
They don't. A lot of the world doesn't get the British irony.
No, and I think, to be honest, it doesn't always travel well. I mean, I work for an American business, and I got myself into trouble all the time for saying things that obviously I was taking the piss, and I didn't mean what I was saying, but take it quite literally everything that you say. And I'm not saying all Americans do. Most that I have come across, qualify that, definitely did.
Yeah,
and I think it's one of those things. And I think it's different. If you go to New York, maybe people are slightly different to people who are in the in
the deep south,
Missouri, or they're out in Kansas or down
Florida,
in Georgia, wherever.
Yeah.
It's very different mentality. And I think it's you'll find the same in Paris. Parisians are very different to people down in other parts of France. But I don't know. I think there will be people that will read this and get upset by what I say. One thing I did say in the back of this was I thought my dad was going to get upset with all the swear words in it because it's quite a sweary book. And I was correct. He phoned me up and said, why are there so many swear words in this book? Well, that's because that's who I am.
Yeah.
And if I'd written a really sterile book, it wouldn't have felt to me.
And also, people wouldn't actually engage with it and take anything away from it.
No.
The fact that it's you. And as a result of that, people are very much, they get that sense of realism.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, people need it. And I think right at the front end to say, look, this isn't it's not woo-woo advice, and this is not a medical guide. And I'm not guiding people through, how to fix all your problems. And I'm not, there's no caveats in this book because I'm not saying, it's not like giving financial advice. I'm not giving people serious mental health advice. It's not that kind of book. This book's written about my experience and my brain, which is not unique. I know for a fact that there are. I mean, look, if I were to give you 3 chapters from this, I'll pick 3 from random. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I'll pick 3. I'm not going to read out. Don't worry. I'm just going to just some chapters, and you can tell me if you can identify with any of these, Jason. Okay. Okay. Multitasking. It's a good one. Multitasking. People. How many people do you know that on a CV would say that they're great multitaskers?
Pretty much every CV.
Because everybody thinks multitasking is a great thing. It's not a great thing. So there's a chapter here, multitasking is a scam for people who love being shit at everything. And I think that's kind advice.
Oh, God, so many people just sprung to my head. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I can relate to that one.
They relate to that one. Let's get another one. So I have a tattoo on my arm that says, today is the tomorrow you worried about yesterday. Now, I think that is one of the best pieces of advice, and that's a quote from Dale Carnegie, who has written some amazing books on this sort of thing, and it's so poignant about Buddhists have spent centuries trying to anchor themselves in the present for a reason, and the Buddhists are very wise, and sometimes you have to look overseas for some of this advice. And let's be honest, the Chinese have been doing this stuff for a very, 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 very long time. Yeah. It's you go to any sort of Asian country where Buddhism is strong and practiced, and you might listen to. I mean, I do follow a couple of Buddhist monks on YouTube who will give you advice about, and most of it is centered around living in the present. And there is a lot to be said for that. So here's one that people will definitely get out of bed or stay stuck in the soft prison you built. So getting out of bed is very difficult.
Yeah.
How many people do you know that hit snooze 3 times because they can't face getting out of bed because their day looks a bit shit?
Actually, at the moment, probably 90% of the country, to be honest with you.
I'll do 2 more, and here's we spoke about this earlier. Okay, taking action is the best way to get rid of anxiety. So if you've got a massive problem, and I've had a couple of things recently that have really caused me some aggro, let's say that. And the best way to get through shit in life is to do something about it. So small actions, small things, progress, those first steps, the first 1,000, whatever, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it is literally that first, just one thing. If you can accomplish one thing in a day, the next day maybe try 2 things.
And that's how I've always looked at my work. So my work, I genuinely, I'm not giving people, this is how you become a machine at work. Especially for people who are self-employed, who run their own businesses, you want to focus on things that move the needle, which sounds like a bit wanky, but it's true. If you focusing on things that you're going to do today, do things that are going to move the needle for your business, then you do things that are going to make you money rather than faffing about with things that aren't going to help you. So there's stuff like that. And procrastination, which everybody's, I don't know anybody that doesn't procrastinate. And we'll have one more. Nothing bad happened, so why do I feel like shit? And it's not my favourite chapter, but I'm not sure you're ready for chapter 11 on your podcast, Jason. Because chapter 11, you can say that. I'm not saying that on your podcast, but it's one of my favourite chapters, and it you don't have to say.
Let's just put it this way. I totally agree with that. You're going to have to go and buy Dan's book if you want to find out what that chapter is. But God, yeah. Yeah. All right, you're right. I've pretty much identified with all of those.
But look, it's...
You're right. I also can't fucking say that. I can say fuck. So it tells you how bad it is.
The chapter basically alludes to the fact that you're not imagining it. A lot of people are very self-interested.
Yes.
They behave in a certain way that would lead to them being given a certain title.
Yeah.
And I find that as a species, we're quite selfish. And I gravitate towards people like me who are quite selfless and don't always put themselves first. Human beings are very different to, and I know we're very different because we have, all these things that we talked about earlier. And I do draw a comparison to the animal kingdom. You look at bees, you look at other herding animals, all these sorts of things. Human beings, although we're very tribal, we're not very good as a species at being selfless. We're very selfish.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that. I'm not saying I am always the most charitable of people, but I've always been selfless, and I will always help somebody who needs help with something, whether it's practical help, whether it's emotional help, whether it's just advice, whether it's for fuck's sake.
In a way, if you can do it, you'll help them.
Then I will if I think I can.
So here's a question I ask everybody: one cigar in history with anybody in history, who, what, and why?
Oh, my goodness!
It's an arsehole question because there's a lot to think about.
I think I would have to have a cigar with... Oh my God, that's a realm. Colton DeWalt. Was his name Colton DeWalt? No. You've got me there. A cigar with anybody in history. I'm not going to say the obvious.
No, you say the obvious if that's what you think.
No, I'm not going to say it. Adrian Colton DeWalt, I think his name is, and I'd have to remind myself of that, was probably one of the most incredible wartime heroes, who had his hand blown off, was shot I don't know how many times, started in the war.
I know the guy you're on about.
And lost his eye, everything, eye patch, lost his hand, everything.
And still
literally came through and still did all this stuff. He was just insane. I've read his book, and it's just the most insane war stories you've ever heard in your life. And the guy was just, he was insane. He died of old age in his sleep. He'd come through the First World War, he'd done the Boer War, he'd been everywhere you can imagine. And I would just love to hear, reading his book was insane, just to hear his story. Or, to be honest, because I'm sad like this and probably slightly predictable, I'm not going to say Churchill, but actually talking to those first pioneers of the SAS back in the Second World War, I would sit and have a beer and a cigar with... I probably would start drinking again if I was sat in a tent in the desert with cigars with those guys back in the 40s. I think, I'd have to have a go at that. I think that'd be amazing.
Interesting choice. Dan, thank you very much. People, where can they get your book?
It's on Amazon.
So look it up. I'll put a link in the description on the video so you can actually just click on the link and go grab it. Seriously, I recommend getting it. It's worth it just for the fact that you'll make such connections. Dan, thank you very much.
Thank you, mate. Nice one.
Okay, so that's Dan's interview. It's an interesting chat. I've known Dan, as you can tell by that interview, I've known him for years. So we've got a lot of personal history together. And reading the book, he makes a lot more sense to me now. It is very much him. And as a result, very much a personal account, I think is the best way to word it. Because there are some things in there I do definitely agree with, and I can see myself, which is one of the reasons I like the book. There are some things in there that I go, really? But having known Dan, I can go, yeah, for you, that's really it. I get it. But that's my opinion. It is. Mental health is a very personal thing.
Well, as you know, part of my history, that's very much the case. And I think one of the things I found reading parts of the book, certainly the first part and then Gone, it's him writing down how he feels at the time. And it's extremely personal. And some people will get it or not like it just by its reading. But if you really want to understand it, you have to actually precede the whole thing down to find out what his various messages are. And there are quite a few interesting ones there, some of which, when we're being commented in other programs, are very much the way the world is. I find that his language as he used, it is his.
Yes.
It personally doesn't work for me, but that's nothing against him. That's a personal thing. I'm much older than he is, and my mental thinking is that many years
Exactly,
different.
yeah. I think that's the thing to remember. I mean, Dan's about 6 months younger than me, I think. God, I feel old. I know I'm saying that in front of you, so don't take that personally because you're old. But a young person will take this quite differently, I think. But that's a good thing, because the more examples people come across, the more personal connections they can make.
Yeah, and as we said at the top of the program, January is the time when a lot of people are coming out. From my own personal point of view, this was the period where I hadn't picked up the phone to ask for help for my drinking. I was about to, or I've just done it, or about that far. So it's a very difficult time for a lot of people, because there's always, it's the lack of light and everything else, that sort of lack of sun.
This time of year is a very depressive time of year.
And it's very easy to go off. But I think one of the main things for younger people, we talked about this, everybody's being made to run around. You have to do this immediately without thinking. That potentially can be a lot of disaster.
It is. I think this is why this is my saviour, essentially. And I think this is what a lot of society is missing. Yes, I know it's cigars and they're bad for you, whatever. Everything in moderation is all right. Everything to excess is bad. Whether it's you're in the gym to excess, that's bad. You're eating to excess, that's bad. You're not eating to excess, that's even worse. It is that point of finding that moderation and that middle ground where you sit comfortably and you can stop and relax. I think the problem we got at the moment is we've got all the pubs closing, which is where a lot of men go to chill out, relax. They talk to the barman, they air their problems. They air their problems with their friends. Or they go to the barber shop, you know, the hairdresser, they talk there and have a chat with someone who knows them but doesn't know them. You know, they see them every 6-7 weeks, but that's it.
Yeah, I understand where that comment's going. The pub's been a very much a social point, but it's also a point where people tend to drink a lot.
Yeah, that's a double-edged
and
sword.
one of the things, and I'll put that out there, it's very easy, if when you become an alcoholic in particular, that you think you're going to see your friends, but you're going to see people who you're hoping or expecting to buy you a drink.
Yeah.
Is the psychology of what I learnt when I stopped drinking. And they're waiting, doing the same thing, knowing that when you come, you're buying them a drink.
Yeah.
So it's a self-feeding cycle.
Essentially, yeah.
Which is very difficult then to get out of for some people. And I remember in the interview, you saw the people that were coming out. And after a while, and I was going to the meetings for 4 years, you soon realise which ones are going to do it and which ones aren't going to do it. And you don't worry when they don't turn up after 3 weeks. Because you know that they don't want to. They think that giving up those friends means the end of their life. And I think one of the things I've learned that actually a lot of people drink and they are alcoholics. A lot of people drink, they are not alcoholics because they can put it away.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as an alcoholic, you realize, from my point of view, that a lot of people just don't drink.
Yes.
And you're not in the minority as such. You've gone from one minority, which is the alcoholics, to yes, another one. But you're also more part of the group who drink slightly.
Yeah, okay.
And that's a different total scene.
Yeah.
Because you're coherent all the time to everybody that you talk to.
Yes.
and you got more chance of not being dismissed.
Yeah, that's true. It's an interesting thing. I mean, I don't drink an awful lot. Yes, I know that's shocking considering how much whiskey I have and my infinity drams and stuff. I don't drink a lot because I don't like being out of control. That's why I don't really get drunk very often, because I don't like lack of control. So I don't let myself do it because I can't lose that control. So I don't.
And a lot of people are able to do that, but there are a lot of people who have addictive personalities. You find that with cigarette smoking. It's a very addictive because the nicotine's got to them. But that's not so much because of the nicotine, it's because of the individual DNA and their process. And it is difficult.
Yeah,
and
they would either be addicted to that or they would be addicted to something else. It's like the gambler who's addicted. He just can't help himself. Oh, it'll work out on the next one. I'll win big and I'll stop. No, even if you won big, you wouldn't stop.
No, you can only stop if you decide that you want to do it, which was certainly my case. And I've never regretted that decision. It has changed me in some ways, but not in other ways. I had a curious case about 10 years ago when I said something to one of my good friends, who was one of the reasons why I considered stopping drinking. And she said, no, you haven't changed. And I was slightly affronted. After thinking about it a little bit, I realized what she meant, that the person that she liked, she saw all the time.
Yeah.
And that she liked. And that gave me the influence of, that's fine.
Yeah. And that's
I made the right decision.
Right. I think that's enough on this depressing subject. There will be a link to Dan's book in the description if you want to go check it out. I recommend it because I like Dan, but B, I think it's actually a good little read, and it'll just give you some insight, especially with someone who's got ADHD like Dan has. And he literally does have 100 squirrels running around in his head, which explains the way it's written somewhat.
It does, but as I said earlier, people are also made to run around like squirrels a lot, which is a shame. And I think half of it's probably because the management don't know what they're doing half the time.
Right. Let's change the subject. We're going to talk about our pick of cigars for 25, I think. Because I think this is quite interesting, and it's going to definitely rustle a couple of feathers. I hope. So, you want to go first, and then I'll follow you?
Yeah. We spoke to a lot of cigars last year, and there's some very good, worthy companies there. We haven't smoked that many of their cigars, but they will make an appearance probably this year a little bit more. At least I think from my shop point of view, they possibly will. I'm going to start with the exception to our little thing. This is a limited edition. It was the last cigar we smoked right at the end of the last one, which is, quite frankly, a wonderful cigar smoke.
It was a nice surprise, actually, considering it's the leaf that's in it. I was very surprised at how well that was.
And beautifully balanced. And what you may not have realized was that actually we finished talking about this cigar, but finished the program. And then I was realizing the last part of it, which you see, is us talking about the smoothness of the smoke. That we had to then come and put in.
Yeah.
Because we found that there's such a difference. That makes that cigar quite amazing.
Yeah.
But it is a limited edition, so no, I'm not going to include it in my top three.
Okay.
But it's probably, as a cigar, it has its own merit. As a limited edition, it's one of the best I've smoked.
Fair enough.
In that sense.
So what is your first one then for your cigar of the year? What's the first one?
I would say, well, from Dominica, and it's part of the reason why we got the Lanceros tonight, and that was smoking the Galeria Lancero.
Yes. So that's
the Galeria Lancero. I smoked their main Habanas wrapper one for quite a while. It's been out about 3 or 4 years, along with a Maduro. Both cigars I like. But to experience that smoothness of that length of smoke, I found was quite amazing. And that certainly made me think about, who else is doing Lanceros that we could develop the idea, or where can I go and develop it when I'm looking for cigars to actually then smoke for that length of time? Because, as you said, yes, it is a lot of smoke. It's probably as much smoke as certainly Robusto, maybe almost up to the Toro, because they are, 7 inches long?
Yeah, I would say it's actually it's a longer smoke than the Toro, if I'm honest, because you've got to take pace on it. You can't rush it. It is that size format that if you rush it, it just spoils. And it does become quite horrible if you do that on a Lanceroy. My first cigar my favourite cigar of last year, probably won't surprise anybody, is the Metallica M81. Now, I like this cigar a lot, and I'm very pleased because this is a good talking point. The interview for next month's podcast is with Tor Imports, who are the importers of this cigar. I got to try the cigar before they actually announced they were importing it. So when Scott announced that they were doing it, I was over the bloody moon. I've had quite a few of them now, as most people who know me know. So that was my favourite cigar of the year. What was your second favourite cigar of the year?
My second favourite cigar, sticking with what is Nicaraguan, is actually, it's again from Tor, but they are the main Nicaraguan importers in the country. And I like the New London Chariton. I thought the Colorado, the Chariton itself, the classic one, is
It's a good cigar. I mean, that's a cigar I recommend to somebody who's starting.
The Colorado is a cigar in its own right. The fact that they put it under the Sheraton label or call it London Sheraton, I think is almost irrelevant. They've done it because it's come to England or being done for the English market, perhaps in its three formats. This is the standard Colorado one. There's a Maduro version and a very pale Coro Puro one, which is what you smoked.
Which I smoked in last month's interview with Dan from from Warlock Meadery, because that is a good cigar again to start with. If you're new to cigars, you want that sort of decent size and a good format. And actually, it is a very light smoke. For me, it's a bit too light. I like the Maduro version of that cigar. And my issue with that, which is why I didn't make my list, is because they put Sheraton London, I thought they were being very pretentious. It's like, oh, come on, really? You're making it just for the London market? Having tried it, it's a bloody good cigar.
It is a good cigar. I think the Colorado in its own right, you could sort of quietly blank out that. And Scott will probably mind me up for that next week, but when we record the program, or hope to. But it is a nice cigar. It's well balanced and it's a joy to smoke. And actually, a step up from the Puro, if you want something stronger, you're either going to smoke something like that or something similar. There are a lot of other similar cigars out there. It's also nicely priced for that kind of market as well.
Indeed. My second cigar was actually, this goes back to our second show, is the Rocky Patel number 6. I like this cigar. I think it's got a really good flavour profile. Not strength, as we were saying earlier on. It's actually a flavour profile I like on this. I think I have a personal connection to that cigar because I interviewed the man. And I saw his passion for it and what he brings to cigar making in general. And it's like, yeah, I get it. I understand. With that cigar, you've nailed what you're on about. And that's why that one was my number 2.
Yeah, I mean, this choice of cigars is quite difficult because we obviously couldn't go through. I like the M81 as well, but it is a strong cigar.
Oh, yeah.
I have found, having smoked one or two of them, but you need to have had a decent dinner beforehand. You need to have strengthened up your taste buds because it's a hard hit.
Yeah.
We've tried one or two other cigars which haven't come on the program yet, which are equally strong.
Yeah.
And that's not for the weak.
That's not for the faint of heart.
The number 6, it is beautifully formed. And on that note, another one for Rocky, and it's my one from Honduras in that sense, and that's the Seed to Smoke.
That's a good bloody cigar. It's
totally
one of those ones that
different.
almost made my list.
It's not designed to be for top quality for the connoisseur smoker, but it is a cigar that everybody can smoke. If you're having a group of people that you don't know, you can take this along. It's half the price of the number 6, but don't be misguided by that, because actually it has its own...
Size-wise, there's not a lot in it, but it is the tobacco that's in it.
It's the tobacco in it is different. It has its own flavour. But there's enough flavour for the connoisseurs and friend to be happy smoking it in company of others who aren't used to smoking something. And it is actually a nice cigar. It's something you can just pick out of the box. It's like, rather that people talk about that cabinet cigar.
Actually,
the one you
yeah.
walk into your tobacconist and you walk up to this cabinet, there are some unmarked cigars. This is what you'd put out. Rocky's put his label on it. Why not?
Another analogy, and this one's not a good one. That's the KFC of cigars. You'll
It'll kill
have
you for
it,
that.
you'll enjoy it. You might regret it afterwards because it is like, oh, it's a bit cheap, but it's bloody good when you're having it. I think that's a fair point. It's one of those cigars, you know what you're getting when you have it, and it happens every time.
But as Rocky said, you can make cigars for 100 quid, but you can make good cigars that aren't.
Yes.
And that is that's his statement to that idea.
Yeah. Right, my number 3, which I don't actually have here, so I can't show you it, is a Cuban. It's the Joyo de Monterrey Epicure number 3. That's been out a couple of years, and I deliberately avoided it. Because to me, the size format of that cigar is very much the same size as the Epi 2. And I'm like, okay, well, the only real difference is one's a torpedo top and the other's the traditional cap. But the flavour and strength of that cigar, the strength of that cigar is a surprise. And the flavour's really there.
One almost wonders, it's
A different
Hoya
factory.
it almost has a different profile compared to the other the Joya de Monterreys,
Yeah.
as opposed to La Joyas, which are traditionally slightly stronger version of the Joyas. But it might be, possibly it's a result of some of the leaf that's coming through, because agriculture in Cuba is complete mess at the moment.
Yeah, it's very hit and miss.
And I think they're getting various different results, and I think it's making them, it has made some difficulties for Cuba.
Yeah.
One would like to see them come back to full strength, but I think that's a while off at the moment. And certainly the New World is putting out too many interesting things at the moment.
They really are. So your third one?
Well, that was probably the 3.
So the honorary mention was your third.
Yep.
All right, so that's 3 for 3. Right. Here's a little bit of the controversy then. My 2 least favourite cigars of last year was a Cuban and is a New World. So there's 2. So I'm not being biased. It's 1 on each side of the market. My least favourite Cuban was the Monte Cristo Slam. I'm very disappointed in that cigar. To me, I like the size format. I don't like its flavour profile. It's too light a cigar for the market that they're aiming it at, I feel.
And the price.
Oh, the price. Let's not get started on the price.
Well, the Cubans are in their level of their own, and so are the major Davidoffs, for that matter.
Yes.
I was disappointed with it. Yeah, I find it a very pale cigar. It reminded me, well, it was the new version of the open cigars, if I remember.
Yeah,
right.
it's in the open range. And
Which I always found very different. Although they had the Monte Cristo label on it, it wasn't what I consider to be Monte Cristo.
No, it's not. And anybody who smoked them will understand the difference between the open range and the traditional Monte range. They might as well be different brands, really. And I've smoked a lot of the open range, by the way. In fact, in my wedding, which I got from you, I had a box of the juniors, which are now the J, because you can't say juniors anymore, and a box of the Eagles for the wedding. So I have smoked a lot of those over the years. So that was my disappointment from a Cuban. Now, the disappointment from a New World was the Plasencia that they also launched this year, because I felt that was very light for a cigar. That range is normally very, very good, that Plasencia range, but that one just doesn't. Maybe it's not designed for me. Maybe it's designed for someone who's just getting into cigars and want a big cigar, but they don't want that big hit.
It still takes a lot of smoking for somebody who's new into it, because it takes quite a while, as you know, to smoke up for an hour and a half.
Yes.
Which is what that cigar takes. I don't disagree on you. I don't know much about Plasencia. I've saw them in Doha duty free last year, and because I don't know the range, I hadn't actually really smoked any of them. I had got the green.
Yep.
And since then, the
Frente,
Hexago, which is a green.
Oh yeah, that one.
That is an interesting cigar.
But that's
I
a
think
very
in
good
comparison, this is very much light. And there is obviously a lot of people out there, and they smoked it. It's I think Plasencia have a little bit more to do with Davidoff, and probably Davidoff would like to say. And perhaps that's what they're trying to do. They, after all, like Galeria, they own their own farms, they own their own factory. They've obviously been making cigars for other people for a long time, and now they started on their own. So they're still at the beginning of this idea of what they're going to make their name out of.
I think though, you look at it, you got like the 149. That is another cigar I don't like from Persuades. That one just knocks me on my ass. It's a cigar that kills me every time I smoke it. It's too strong for me, that one. So that's like way the other way. And it's a very small Robusto. But there's like the Alforte, no, whatever the green one is. Sorry, I can't remember its name. That cigar is bloody amazing. So they can hit the mark. It's just a shame because they had quite a lot of hype around it and I enjoyed them. When I tried that one, it's just like, oh, is that it?
Yeah.
It just left me wanting a lot more. So, sorry. Not sorry.
But then we both prefer slightly stronger cigars.
Yeah, we do.
I mean, this one actually is still smoking, although it keeps going out. I think the humidity where we are at the moment has now got the cigars. We'll probably have to, apart from stopping, we'll have to change smoke. Change smoke, not chain smoke. That's later.
That's off camera.
That's off camera, definitely. Flor Dominica, which is this from, I brought those 1924s back from Doha.
They're very good.
I know. I think some of the strength is lurking in these cigars. I can see them. They'd be interesting to smoke some of their other cigars.
Right. We're going to change subject slightly. We're going to go off and do the 101. So this is the third part of our wrapper series of 101s. We'll come back and discuss the rest of that in a moment.
Okay, welcome to the third 101 on wrappers. In the previous ones, we've talked about the Connecticut wrappers, which soften the taste of the core. And in the second program, we dealt with Maduros, which have the ability often of a core to explode and widen right throughout your palate, the taste of that cigar. The third one today is about what might be described as the baseline. Either Habano wrapper or something like the Sumatran. Both will centrally lift the core upwards to a slightly stronger taste without necessarily broadening it out. It's very much a baseline cigar. Whereas beginners would probably want to start with Connecticut wrappers, slightly experienced rippers will probably go for what is a Habanos wrapper or something similar before moving on to the Maduros. So there you have it. 3 basic ideas to deal with wrappers, so you have a little bit more knowledge when somebody's talking to you about a strange cigar. The wrappers do matter, and then the quality of the filler will change how that wrapper works.
There we are. 3 basic types of wrapper. Hopefully you've learned something from them. They all impart different flavors. And just to make it more complicated for you to think about, depending how long they aged the wrapper to start with will give different effects.
Totally.
Because we've been looking through various lists, and San Andreas as a wrapper, which is often used as a Maduro, comes on lots of different cigars and they're all at different strengths. Some of it will be the core, but not all of them from what we know, because we have smoked some of them.
Yeah, and it does make such a difference, which is why when we were smoking the Lanceros earlier on, I was saying about that wrapper makes so much more of the flavour of that cigar than it does on a Robusto. So it's one of those, it's yet another element to add to the mix.
Yeah. And just to put another element in, we have changed cigars, not because we didn't like the other ones, but having filmed for much longer than what you're actually seeing, the humidity out here although it's a sheltered area, had actually softened the cigars down, which means they were getting difficult to smoke.
Yeah, they wouldn't stay lit.
They wouldn't stay lit. So we've changed to something fresher and see how far we get.
And actually, this is a new one for me. This is, this is one of the Julier's. Joliet or Juliet. I've had the black, which you're smoking, and I've had the red.
Jordan, Nicaragua.
Yeah. This is the box press, which is a new one for me. Walnuts is all I'm getting from it. Sadly, it's one-dimensional. It's just that one flavour. But it might be because I've had a cigar beforehand, which was a bit stronger.
That possibly could be. That could be. This one's about the same strength, very different taste pattern. It's getting a bit softer as I smoke through it. It was It's got an interesting wrapper flavour. I can't quite place it. I don't think it's not as strong as the M81, which we both smoked and commented about. It's somewhere below that, but it's not a weak cigar. They're calling it a medium. I find it a little bit fuller than that for most people, but I think most people's taste.
We've changed drinks as well. We're now onto a spiced rum, and it's very, very well.
It's very sweet. There's a lot of. I think cinnamon is the main thing, and in fact, it's one of those that if you pour a little bit out, the room will fill with the aroma quite rapidly. That's very sweet. I think those who like their rum sweet will probably get on with this very well.
If you do that.
Those who don't, try something else.
No, that's a definite no. For me, that's a no.
Definitely a lot sweeter than the Seychelles one that we tried in the last program.
Oh yeah,
very different.
It's got a very clinging taste. I'm going to taste that for a while.
Yeah,
but it's very perfumey.
It's still got a good, although it's sweet. There is a body to it. It's not anything mild.
If you like your spiced rums, you're going to like it. But I did say earlier on that I'm not a fan of spiced rums. Did try it. I think I do prefer the black top, as you said. I actually don't mind that. I quite enjoyed that one. So
that's all right because you've got the remainder back there.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to use that to wash my mouth out, basically.
I mean that's
better.
Black Top's been out for a little while, and I think the distillery and mixing. I'm not quite sure if it's been. I think the rum's been brought into the UK and it's been mixed in the UK according to the recipe. But I think the rum is being produced by the three original things. And although it's still got some of the old one, I think actually as a rum in its own right, it stands out.
Right. We've got one more whiskey. Well, you brought a whiskey. So
I brought a whiskey to finish him off.
Yeah. So he wasn't too mean to me. He brought me a whiskey. So we're going to try that one.
Just in case he didn't get on with the rums.
Gary does know me.
So this is McNair's Lambriki. And the reason I brought it out is that the blender is Billy Walker. Anybody who's been listening at any point to us, Jennifer, will realise that Billy Walker is the blender at Glenallachie currently. This McNair's technically is a peated whiskey, but it's blended by Billy Walker. And Glenallachie have brought out a couple of peated Glenalachie's in their own right, of which he's blended. So it'd be interesting to...
That's nice and light. There's a hint of smoke. A little bit of sweetness. It's definitely cleared my palate, so I really appreciate this. It's not like the New Zealand whiskies, which we tried, where you could really pick out the smokiness. It's there, but it's there more on the taste.
I think that will depend. I think the New Zealand whiskey is all about that pot still being wood-fired. Which literally means...
So it's doing that.
So you're getting a smoke field going around, whether it's the Manuka wood or they're using the South Island peat bricks. This has got a nice aroma to it.
It has.
That's
a nice whiskey. It's a very nice whiskey.
It sounds barbaric. It almost smells like something that's had a mixer to it, but it hasn't.
That's a terrible thing to say.
Well, it probably is.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But there is a thing that you sip this, but you haven't added to it.
No. It's got a lot.
There's a lot here for a lot of people.
Yeah, if you want to get into peated whiskies, that's a great place to start. There's enough of it there for you to start to understand the effect on your palate, but there's not enough of it there to go, here's a kick in the bollocks, which is what you get with a lot of them.
You do on some of the extreme ones. Both begin with L and are in the south part of Isla, although Isla Sky has two.
Right. Before I forget, don't forget if you're enjoying these videos, because they do take a little bit of time for us to do, we really would appreciate it if you'd follow us, subscribe, all the usual crap that you have to do. Greatly appreciated. Don't forget to look out for the little YouTube shorts, because we're going to do a few more of those. On that note, I think we'll wrap the show, and we'll catch you on next month's episode.
See you next month.